Texas voters are also starting to show signs of buyer's remorse. A recent poll from Texas A&M University found that Trump now has a net negative favorability in the Lone Star State, a state he carried by 13 points in the last election. He's underwater by 9 points on his handling of wars around the world, and he's underwater by 16 points on making prices more affordable. And Texas Democratic Senate candidate James Tallarico is doing everything he can to capitalize on Trump's broken promises and messy public breakups. After Cornyn lost his primary, Tallarico reached out to Cornyn supporters, telling them they have a place in his campaign. And his outreach to disaffected parts of the Trump base appears to be working to some degree. I mean, this week, Tallarico picked up the endorsement of one of the lawyers who defended Ken Paxton during Paxton's impeachment trial before the Texas Senate. And that same Texas poll that I just mentioned shows Tallarico is now polling dead even against Ken Paxton in the conservative state of Texas. As voters grow more and more dissatisfied with Trump and his party, and that's what looks like is happening, even in places where Trump's support was once strong, can candidates like James Tallarico convince voters to choose another path? That is the question. And joining me now is James Tallarico, Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in Texas. It's great to see you. You're right smack in the middle of a hell of a race. So thanks for being here. Part of your path, I wanted to start. Yeah, it's great to see you. Part of your path of winning, which you're, again, right in the middle of, is getting Trump voters, people who voted for Trump, independent voters on your side. You've talked about that publicly, and we all know the state of Texas, that's going to be required. I just played some sound of Trump voters in Ohio that I think was pretty fascinating. People who sound, frankly, exhausted and angry, and at the very least disappointed with Trump's second term. As you're traveling around the state of Texas, are you hearing similar things on the campaign trail in Texas, and what are they saying?
Yeah, I'm hearing the exact same thing, and it's from folks all over the state of Texas. It's from people in my family. It's my friends who voted for Donald Trump in the last election. They thought he was going to lower costs. They thought he was going to end the wars. They thought he was going to drain the swamp. They thought he was going to release the Epstein files. And now they're feeling pretty disillusioned because on all four counts, the president and this administration has failed them. And so what we're trying to do in this campaign is extend an open hand rather than a closed fist to our neighbors who feel like they've been conned, who feel like they've been let down. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that movement already in the state of Texas. You know, we have 45,000 volunteers signed up to help us organize in communities across the state. We've shattered grassroots fundraising records, all without taking a dime from corporate PACs, and we're leading in the polls against Ken Paxton. So I feel like this big tent that we're building in Texas is really going to shock the world in November of this year when we win our state.
One of the issues I've been really wondering how it's playing is, of course, the war in Iran. And you and I have talked about this before, much earlier in the war, which started right around the time of when you became the nominee. It feels to me like one of the reasons people are frustrated is because, well, it's been over 100 days, and Trump has claimed nearly 40 times that the war was close to an end. It's clearly not. I just wonder, as you have been talking to voters and they're digesting the war, have you seen a breaking point, or have you seen a decrease in support even over that period of time since the war began? People who may have wanted to give him a chance on it in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. And the skyrocketing gas prices all over our state is the straw that is breaking the camel's back in Texas, because Texans were already struggling to afford the basics, groceries and utilities and insurance and prescription drugs, childcare, the things that we need to get by. And now you add these high gas prices on top of it. And again, you're seeing a bipartisan backlash to these crazy policies, whether it's this disastrous war in the Middle East, whether it's these crazy tariffs that are driving up prices at the grocery store and across the state. People are they're ready for serious leaders who are going to bring both parties together to actually improve the lives of Texans, to make our lives easier and better and less stressful. That's what politics should be about. It should be about serving our neighbors. And instead, you've got leaders like Ken Paxton who only seem interested in serving themselves at the expense of the people. And I think that's what you're going to see Texans stand up against in November of this year.
There are times when things happen in Washington and everybody's heads explode, and then I wonder, is it resonating, and are people hearing it in states across the country? And one of those things, I mean, Trump said something yesterday, you may have seen this, that I just could not get over. He said, I love the inflation, which led me to believe maybe he doesn't know what inflation is, but certainly he doesn't know how it's impacting people. Are those type of comments things that are breaking through to Texas voters? I mean, do they repeat that kind of stuff back to you, or how does it resonate?
I mean, this is the thing I hear about in every corner of the state, whether it's East Texas or West Texas, North Texas, South Texas, across the political spectrum, too. Democrats, independents, Republicans. It's that everyone feels like we're drowning, that we can't afford those basic things that we need to live. We're not spending our money on nice cars or nice clothes or nice vacations or nice houses. We're just struggling to make those ends meet. And I think what we're trying to communicate on the campaign trail is that our inability to get ahead, our inability to afford the basics, that is because we have a corrupt political system that only serves the wealthy and the powerful at our expense. And so if we're going to start to lower costs, if we're going to start to raise pay, if we're going to start to unrig this economy, we have to tackle this corruption in our government head on. We have to transform this broken, corrupt political system that Ken Paxton represents. So this is a lot bigger than any one politician. It's a lot bigger than any one political party. It is about taking on and transforming this broken system itself, because that's the only way that we're going to start to realize our potential as a state and as a country.
It was only, believe it or not, I know you know this, but for people watching, it was only about 2 weeks ago that Senator John Cornyn lost his primary race to your now opponent, Ken Paxton. You've mentioned a few times for good reason. There's a lot to be said about that guy. And since then, John Cornyn, he's had a lot to say. I mean, including today in the New York Times. And he said this in reference to Trump endorsing Paxton instead of him after he basically bent over backwards to deliver Trump's agenda. And I just want to read this to you and to people who, in case they haven't seen it. If he would do that to me, he would do that to anybody. There's never going to be good enough for him other than 100%. You know, slavish adherence to whatever he wants. But obviously, that's not what the senator's role is supposed to be, especially in terms of checks and balances. Now, that is true. To me, that sounds like it could be a warning to Paxton, like Cornyn would be saying that this is who it could be. He's saying this is who Paxton is. How did you hear it? And is that part of your message out there, that Paxton is a mini Trump, essentially?
Well, on runoff night, I thanked Senator Cornyn for his many years of service to our state. He and I don't agree on everything, but I think we both believe that elected officials are supposed to serve their constituents, not themselves. And so I said on that runoff night to all of Senator Cornyn's supporters, if you believe in that old-fashioned idea of public service, if you believe that public officials are supposed to serve their neighbors, not their mega donors, then you have a place in this campaign. And we've heard from a lot of Senator Cornyn's supporters who are joining this movement that we're building. Again, this is a movement that's a lot bigger than any one political party. It's a lot bigger than any one politician. This is really about all of us coming together to defeat the most corrupt politician in America so that then we can defeat this entire corrupt system.
I would be remiss. First of all, Ken Paxton is definitely the most corrupt person that is on the ballot. I think there's hardly a competition for that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about his former attorney endorsing you in this race. What was your reaction to that when you saw it? Why do you think he chose to do so?
Well, Ken Paxton's own party impeached him. His own staff reported him to the FBI, and now his own defense attorney is endorsing our campaign. Those closest to Ken Paxton know that he's unfit for office. They know that he is everything that's wrong with this broken, corrupt political system. You know, since taking office, Ken Paxton has become a multimillionaire, while our pay has remained stagnant for years, for decades. He now owns 11 homes, while most Texans can't afford one. He has traded favors with wealthy donors, all while he blocks our overtime pay and guts our health care. And so we are uniting Texans onto one team to take on this broken system that Ken Paxton represents. And in these divided times, there seems to be one thing we can all agree on, which is that Ken Paxton is the most corrupt politician in America and should be nowhere near the United States Senate.